Welcome to the edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, The Islander, and this is going to be a recap of the fights I previewed last week. And I know it's Friday and it's late in the week and everything, but what I'm thinking about doing is, and you know, when I do these videos, I want some time to elapse after some big fights so that any of the stuff is sorted out, which there is plenty from the Martinez Chavez fight that's going to be sorted out. And and that way we can get the full gist and talk about the things that are basically rocking the boxing world. In any event, as I'm doing this right now, I want to go to see what was on the schedule. Quick review of the fight between Lopez and Saul Alvarez. I think I hit that one out of the ballpark because it went exactly like I thought it was going to go, and it almost looked exactly like Miguel Cotto against Victoriano Sosa, or somebody brought up on the channel Cotto against Alfonso Gomez. I just thought, after seeing a guy who had looked so good against Mayweather, in Victoriano Sosa, and go up and get absolutely destroyed by Cotto. The same thing happened here. Lopez was in an all-out war with Victor Ortiz, and basically came through it, broke Ortiz's jaw, and won the fight in a huge upset. And then goes and moves up a weight. He's already moved up one weight division to meet Ortiz. He's moved up another weight division to meet Alvarez. And how could this not happen? And basically Alvarez dominated from start to finish. Joseito Lopez never wavered. He fought back gallantly, even though getting knocked down 3 times and taking a vicious body beating. You just knew this was. I knew this was a mismatch before it happened, and unfortunately, sometimes we're saddled with these fights because, as you all know, Saul Alvarez had lost. I think basically Paul Williams to the motorcycle accident, which has basically taken away his paralyzed Paul Williams. He lost. I'm trying to think who the other fight was. James Kirkland, something with him. He decided he didn't want to fight, or the money wasn't right, or something. And then Victor Ortiz was lined up, and Lopez upended Victor Ortiz. So regardless, one way or another, this fight came off, and it was basically a mismatch, and we all know it was a mismatch. I knew it was a mismatch before it was made. But I'm trying to think if it was the undercard of this fight or which fight it was. I'm getting all the undercard fights mixed up. In any event, something I didn't preview was a nice little fight between Jesus Soto Karass and Marcos Maidana, in which it became quasi-dirty fight, with Maidana hitting after the bell and causing a melee in a couple of the rounds, and looking like Maidana punching himself out, and Karass from about the 5th round on turning up the heat, looking like he was going to take the fight, when all of a sudden he got knocked down hard, and the follow-up volley of punches prompted the referee to stop the fight. It was a good win for Maidana, and the thing about it is that I don't know that he's ever going to get to the top level of being a world champion again. But the situation is this: he's always in exciting fights. He's never in a fight like the Timothy Bradley, Devin Alexander fight. He's never in a fight like that. He's always in a good fight. And the fight that I've been calling for a couple of years now would be Marcos Maidana versus Lucas Mathis in an all-Argentine shootout. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with that fight. Then turning our attention to another fight that was in the underlings, Daniel Ponce DeLeon lifted the WBC featherweight title from Johnny Gonzalez, and it was another fight where we thought it was going to be a barn burner from the punches being thrown, but both guys were cautious, respected each other's power, until Ponce DeLeon crossed the left hand off of Gonzalez's head and sent him through the ropes down into the ring apron. Thing was, they've been bumping heads all night long, and finally a headbutt opened, cut along Ponce DeLeon's scalp and won over one of Gonzalez's eyes, and the referee stopped the fight, went to the scorecards, and Ponce DeLeon was ahead. I don't know that I agree that he was ahead by the margin he was ahead by. It wasn't like he won every round but one in the fight, which is how one judge had the fight. But needless to say, it could have gone either way. I'm not arguing with the fact that Ponce DeLeon got the nod. He scored the knockdown, which is not always the determining factor in my way of scoring. But when a fight's abrupt, when a fight stopped abruptly, you have to look at something like that to determine who the winner is. I remember this way back when, in 1988, one of the first, what I would call really super high profile fights that ended in a technical decision. It was on HBO. It was a unification fight between Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., WBA lightweight champion, and Jose Luis Ramirez, the WBC champion. And they had gone the whole fight. Chavez scored a knockdown in the 4th round that was not ruled a knockdown. He cracked the right hand off of, while his back was to the ropes, cracked the right hand off of Ramirez's head, and Ramirez basically went into a crouch, and I could swear that his glove touched the canvas, and Chavez went to walk to a neutral corner, and the referee saying, no, come on. And in the minds of most people, that was a knockdown, and I'm sure in the minds of the judges, it was a legit knockdown. Well, that fight got stopped in the 11th round. Chavez well ahead on the scorecards. Ramirez complained after, but I don't understand how you can complain when you've been eating right hands all night long and you got knocked down, basically. Not the same exact situation here, but very similar. Ponce DeLeon had done the damage in this fight. Gonzalez, had done some good boxing at different points. So it was a good win. I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch between the two, and I'm sure they both want a rematch. Okay, that brings us to the biggie, and that was Sergio Martinez versus Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. My take on this was that Martinez was going to win the fight and not to sleep on Chavez Jr. All right, well, for 11 and a half rounds or 11 and a quarter rounds, this fight was a whitewash. And the disparity in skills was very apparent early on. It was very apparent through the middle rounds. It was apparent going into the last round. Until something happened. And that happened was that Martinez let down for 1 second and Chavez drilled him. He drilled him with a left hook, he drilled him with uppercuts, he drilled him with another left hook, and next thing you know, Martinez is on the canvas. And I'm not talking taking a knee on the canvas. As you all know who watched the fight, he went down hard. Very similar to Amir Khan going down hard against, what the heck is his name? Danny, what the heck is my mind like blanking out? It's almost like somebody hit Control-Delete on my computer or something. It's made the memory spin, my eyes spin. Danny Garcia. He went down hard with his feet, on his backside and his feet up in the air. He was in big trouble. I think that if that would have happened earlier in the fight, Chavez Jr. might have been able to finish him or put him away at some time. Too much damage had been put on Chavez Jr. up to that point, along with some other issues we'll talk about. And I think also the fact that all Martinez had to do was survive half a round of holding, grabbing, fighting, and he didn't really go into what I call survival mode. He tried to fight back with Chavez Jr., but I think that kind of activity and that kind of intensity was needed from early on in the fight. I know Chavez Jr. said that he wished he would have started sooner. Well, the thing is that the disparity in skill kept him at bay. And what was it done with? Martinez did it like I told you he would, with an abundance of right jabs and straight left hands. Straight left hands to the body, left hands down low, up high, reset, move. And it's very difficult for any fighter, like a lot of you astutely said when I made the preview video, that Chavez Jr. does not cut the ring off well. He moves in straight lines. Well, all it takes is a jab, a power shot, head or body, and a little bit of foot movement, and you avoid what happened in the 12th round with Martinez. It was when Martinez was standing still against the ropes that this happened. A couple of little takeaways from this. Martinez won a unanimous decision, as he well deserved. There is talk of a rematch because now everybody knows that Chavez Jr. can hurt Martinez. And the way I look at this is this. Is Martinez one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in the world? Yes. Is he in the top 5? Yes. Some would argue the top 3. Maybe. I'm not going to take anything away from him. What I do want to explain to you folks is that boxing is very diluted. I've been having this argument on many of my videos about how diluted the sport is, and the reason for the dilution is, good athletes who would become heavyweight boxers are finding their way into other sports. A lot of athletes who would become boxers in the past are finding their way into other sports. But that's not to say, I think boxing, because of the way it's evolved business-wise, with the promoters and the TV networks, they give us what they want, not what we want. And I think a lot of interest has kind of waned in the sport because of this. going forward, I really think that we may start seeing some of the fights we want to see be made, but if not, what's going to continue to happen is the same thing that's been happening, where once every 3 or 4 months we get a pay-per-view fight. We may agree with it, we may disagree with it, and I'm going to talk about that even more. But some people are going to buy it, and it's going to keep letting the promoters make these fights. Now, the fallout from Chavez Martinez. Die all day, we love you, but, and this is a shout out to you, but the situation is this. Sergio Martinez cannot hold a candle to Carlos Monzon. He would not even last the 15-round distance with Carlos Monzon. Why are you asking? Why do you think I think this? I'll tell you right now. I'm talking to everybody, by the way. Sergio Martinez is not in the league with Hagler and Robinson and Monzon and Harry Greb and even Sugar Ray Leonard or Roy Jones Jr. He's not. He is a lot better than he is at the top of a heap of a lot of mediocre competition. In his title fights, for the title against Kelly Pavlik, Matthew Macklin, now this fight against Chavez Jr., he's been down 3 or 4 times. Against Paul Williams, I kept forgetting in his non-title fight. He's been down 3 times in world title fights that I can remember against mediocre to good competition. Like the Kelly Pavlik thing, won't take anything away from him. He hit somebody with his right hand, they're probably going down. Ask Edison Miranda. But Matthew Macklin is a very good fighter. He's a good fighter. And Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. is an okay, good fighter. He's not upper tier. Marvin Hagler was not disconnected from his feet against any of the guys who are the caliber of these guys I'm talking about. He was cuffed down to the canvas by Juan Roldan, which was a bunch of BS. But he took Tommy Hearns' best right hand right on the chin, stopped for a second, regrouped, and proceeded to annihilate Tommy Hearns. I think Carlos Monzon was conditioned to go 15 rounds at all times, and went 15 rounds many times. His height, his reach, and his power would take apart. He'd have no trouble with the southpaw. His best punch was a lead right hand, as well as a long jab, and Martinez could jump around like a monkey all he wants with his hands down. Monzon would have drilled him and knocked him out, just like he did to Nino Benvenuti, who fought a quasi-similar style to, not exact, but somewhat lackadaisical style, effective style that Martinez does. Martinez is, again, one of the top 3 to 5 pound-for-pound fighters in the world. That does not mean the same thing it did 30 years ago on the stand, because when you're dealing with ranking Aaron Pryor and Sugar Ray Leonard and Salvador Sanchez and Marvin Hagler and Tommy Hearns and Roberto Duran in the top pound-for-pound list, we're talking about Mayweather, Pacquiao, Andre Ward, and, basically Martinez, with the likes of the Klitschko's and Juan Manuel Marquez going in and out, and Bernard Hopkins popping in and out of the rankings. It's not the same thing. All right, so my point is that, do I think Martinez is overrated? No. I think that he sometimes is overhyped by the networks and by some of you. Because I think that if he fought Hagler or Monzon in their prime, or Sugar Ray Leonard or Roy Jones or any of these guys, or even Emil Griffith, or, he'd be finished. He'd be absolutely finished. He's not a natural middleweight either. All right, Chavez Jr. Subsequently after the fight tested positive for marijuana. Now, is this a performance-enhancing drug? No. Did it serve him some purpose? I believe it did. I believe it served him to be able to take some of the shots he took, and by the story of his face and his eye, you could see the punishment he took. Now, he's going to get suspended. He's going to be owed a fine, or going to be made to pay a fine, and he's going to be looked at. From what I understand, all the stories coming out now is that he didn't take training very seriously for this fight. I've heard that Freddie Roach, he didn't show up to the gym several times, and Freddie Roach had to go to the house that he rented, basically move all the furniture around so they could work the mitts at his house. He had, that he was actually consuming alcohol and marijuana during training camp, and that his father was not happy with this also. Listen, I'm not so sure this guy really wants to be a boxer. And Avellino79 put this on my channel comments about in some time we're going to hear him admit this isn't the life I wanted. And Avellino, I full-heartedly agree with you that this is something we're going to hear come out of his mouth someday, that he never wanted this. It was thrust upon him. Look, I think he's entertaining, but I don't think he needs to be forced down our throat. And the thing I'm having trouble with this fight is Chavez Jr. made $4 million guaranteed plus pay-per-view revenue. Martinez made like $1.4 million plus pay-per-view revenue. I think those numbers should have been switched around. The linear champion, who is the proven commodity, should have gotten more money. But the name recognition of all the people who run out and buy Chavez Jr.'s pay-per-views is the one who got paid more. Do you think this is fair? I personally don't. I mean, I don't particularly, like either one. I mean, I like them okay, but they're not my favorites. But what's fair is fair in regards to what Martinez is concerned. And also that knockdown, more fallout from this is that he has to have some type of surgery on his knee. He popped his knee when he got knocked down. So he's going to be shelved for a while, and hopefully we will see a rematch. Maybe Chavez Jr. will take training camp seriously. Maybe he'll start sooner. Maybe he'll get himself knocked out. Maybe he'll knock out Martinez next time. I don't know. It was just a good fight. It was a drubbing, actually, the last round, and I'm telling you, the kind of emotions I'm sitting there watching it, almost falling asleep, going, okay, okay. It's the same thing. Chavez Jr. eating right jabs, getting whacked to the body, whacked to the head, chasing, missing. He did land 170 something punches in the fight, so it's not like Martinez looked like he had gotten beaten on a little bit too. But when that knockdown happened, I think my hair stood up on my arms, on my neck, because I thought I had saw lightning caught in the bottle for a second time. Because I'm telling you, when his father fought Meldrick Taylor, I was out that night with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and we were out late, some movie, dinner, something like that. And when I got back home to my house, everybody was asleep, but there was a tape sitting on the table, and my father had taped it. No note, who won, what had happened, nothing. I put it into the VCR, and we're talking, it's like 1:30 in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning. Play it, watch the HBO build-up, watch the fight, round after round after round. Meldrick Taylor is beating Chavez to the punch, he's beating him, but something strange is happening around the 5th, 6th round. Meldrick Taylor is starting to resemble the Elephant Man, which means Chavez is getting through to him, but didn't protect. The 10th round, finally Chavez starts breaking through. The 11th, Chavez breaks through a little bit. And Jim Lampley even said himself, because he was young to the telecast then, that for the first time, he was still, you could tell for all the world that him and Sugar Ray Leonard had pom-poms and skirts on and wanted Meldrick Taylor to win. Don't get me wrong about that. But he made mention at the end of the 10th round, at the 11th round, that the first time there was an air of danger for Meldrick Taylor. And when the 12th round unfolded the way it did, I think I was jumping up and down screaming that I could not believe what I had saw when Chavez Jr. caught Martinez with a left hook along the ropes and followed up with uppercuts and another left hook, and he went down hard. My hair stood up and I got chill bumps. I was like, I can't believe I'm seeing this happen twice. It wasn't meant to be, obviously, and I think more deservedly it didn't happen because Chavez Jr. didn't deserve to win the fight with his behavior. Alright, that's all I'm going to say about that. News in the sport, we have basically a Manny Pacquiao sighting, and they have signed a fight, or it was about to be signed, for December 8th, and it will not be against Timothy Bradley in a rematch. It will not be against Miguel Cotto in a rematch, who's going to be fighting Austin Trout for Austin Trout's junior middleweight title. It is going to be a fight between Juan Manuel Marquez and Manny Pacquiao for a 4th time. Most of you are probably saying, what's the use in this? And the only use I can see is that the same thing as the 2nd and 3rd fights, that both guys want a clear-cut winner. I think they are both perfect foils for each other. I disagree with most of you about this. I think Pacquiao looked like he was losing a step in the third Marquez fight, but looked like his old self against Timothy Bradley, because I think he whitewashed Timothy Bradley. But the thing is that Marquez makes this superhuman person into mere mortal when they fight. I think most of you will agree with that. And no matter how old Marquez gets or how slow Marquez gets, because he knows how to control distance, he knows how to offset Pacquiao and time him. I don't believe that Marquez can ever dominate and whitewash Pacquiao. I think what we've been waiting for is to see if Pacquiao can do away with him once and for all. Freddie Roach and Pacquiao are still talking. They want a knockout this time. Well, they want to knock out the second time. They definitely want to knock out the third time. Why would they say anything else but that? Marquez, I don't like this fight because I think it's going to be a replay of the other three. And we're going to have a controversial ending. And they're going to have people arguing with Pacquiao deserved to win. Did Pacquiao win? Did Marquez really win the fight even though he got the decision? And if Pacquiao loses 2 in a row, that leads us into another bit of news. That Pacquiao has come out saying that he's willing to cede the bigger part of the pie to Floyd Mayweather Jr. That he does not need 50%. He will let Mayweather have the lion's share of the purse in order to get the fight done. He loses 2 in a row. There's no reason to make that fight. And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I would rather see him get back in there with Timothy Bradley and show that they don't need judges and that, that right the wrong that was done to him. That's going to do it for this episode. I'll be back. I was looking at the schedule. Let me see something real quick if there's anything coming up in the next week or so. Blah, blah, blah. Some Showtime up-and-comers on Saturday night or tomorrow night. Oh, this Gabriel Rosado thing on NBC Sportsnet from Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Hotbed for boxing. Gabriel Rosado versus Charles Whitaker, 12 rounds for the IBF Junior Middleweight Eliminator. Anything else on it? No. Grand Prairie, Texas. No. Going down the list. Okay, Glasgow, Scotland on September 22nd. Ricky Burns versus Kevin Mitchell, 12 rounds for Burns' WBO lightweight title. Going to be an interesting bout. I expect Burns to win. Too much boxing skill there. Definitely has surprised me in his last few fights, especially against Michael Katsidis. Scott Harrison versus somebody to be announced. It's good to see boxing back in Scotland, I think. Like the days of Ken Buchanan and so forth. At Poland, Krzysztof Lodzorek versus Francisco Palacios, rematch, 12 rounds for Wodolorczyak's WBC Cruiserweight title. What day is this? Today's the 21st. Oh, it's the I got my days wrong. This is all tomorrow, the 22nd. Buenos Aires, Argentina, blase. At Los Mochis, Mexico, Jorge Arce versus Mauricio Martinez, 10 rounds, junior featherweights. Belfast, Northern Ireland, Carl Frampton versus Steve Molitor, 12 rounds for Frampton's Commonwealth junior featherweight title. I guess that is because this is something they used to have a long time ago, the Commonwealth title, which is any British land fight for this title. So Molitor is Canadian. Frampton, I'm assuming, is from Ireland, and so on and so forth. I don't know much about him. Joe Smith. Yeah, that's going to do it for this show. In any event, I'll be back.